Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting, which was duly noticed on February 13th, 2025. They're posting a notification to press in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 19.84. First item is a safety message. And I asked Dan to display what we'll call the energy wheel. And the movement across safety is moving from just the basic, I'll say, let's talk about safety and maybe we can factor in some of the hazards. And as I look at it for more of how I kind of looked at it is, where am I at, what am I doing, and and how can others get hurt? So going to another level, if we look at what has been found to be the hazards across everything, here are the ways that you can get hurt. So really, what we end up starting to do now is it's easy to identify the obvious hazards. But then if you take a look and you start stepping through all of these potential hazards, you end up identifying a lot more things that can happen. Because often we don't, as an example of sound, we don't necessarily consider sound as a hazard, but if you're looking to communicate and you're in an environment that you really can't hear well, the sound piece isn't the hazard, but the communication piece. So then you have to take mitigation techniques to overcome to make sure you can be heard. So those are some of the things, and I'll probably continue to pump this out as much more of the industry is changing to focus more on this. And it's easy to say, and I think I said, I've been here way too long, but really having to focus on targeting zero accidents, and it sounds insurmountable, but how can we accept the attitude of accidents happen? How can we accept that? So if the target isn't zero, we should never accept accidents happen. So this is one way to help sort of start to go down the path of factoring in many more hazard opportunities. Feel free to ask me about any of this. This is newish, but we've been working through these kinds of things. Well, as I left Alliant Energy, we had just started to implement it, and we're definitely full into it in my next job that I'm unretired in. So, thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? And I'll second that, so that passes unanimously with Commissioner Domerhausen not present. Next is a review of December 2025 and January 2026 financial reports. Mr. McCray.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Argery. Just kind of stepping out of the format a bit, as Ann is kind enough to pull up the slide deck just to serve as an illustration. This is it. Awesome. Thank you. So typically we go through our monthly financials. They're rather perfunctory. There's not a lot of significant changes simply because we lock in relative to our revenues as well as our expenditures. Not that we're not managing our expenditures, but we still need to manage those expenditures within the allotted revenues in order to achieve a balanced budget. So I appreciate an email I received from Commissioner Johnson asking about a question that I'll get to in just a moment. But it also maybe caused me to pause and just to quickly review that every Wisconsin school district complies with or adheres to the Wisconsin Uniform Financial Accounting Record, affectionately known as the WUFR. And so I gave you an example of an accounting code that we have within our budget. So the first digits there you see is the number 10, and that reflects the fund. The second item, E, is the type, such as an expenditure, or R would be a revenue. We then move into the location, and in this case, 800 is a district-wide location. In a district this size, we have a number of locations, so that changes. Object 411, that actually happens to be a supply. The function, 251,000, is actually like the Office of the Director of Finance. And then project most likely relates to, on a federal standpoint or a state standpoint, a grant. In this particular accounting sequence, there is no grant code. So in short, this is just a quick high-level example of an element of the Wisconsin Uniform Financial Accounting Record. The revenue and expense reports that you see, and I'm only highlighting the revenue for the month of January here, we format a little bit differently within Skyward to report out. So you will see on the far left, you have two funds, Fund 10 and Fund 27 on a vertical axis. And then you'll see a description of essentially the source, which is that third column in. So as an example, a source, which the first digit of a three-digit sequence is 2, means it's local. So that would be local tax receipts, or that could be a local admission to an athletic contest or to an artistic contest. So we give it some code, but I thought, again, based upon the question that Commissioner Johnson posed, let's go ahead and take a little bit of a deeper dive because there are perhaps others in the listening audience that don't understand. Commissioner Johnson raised the question, what's the difference between the original and the revised budget? So the original budget is exactly what the board adopts at its levy certification and budget adoption meeting in October. That's when we lock in. But we do live in a rather dynamic environment. And so that dynamic environment affords us to do a revised budget. So here's a perfect example. And I was chatting a little bit not that long ago with Zeke Sterwald, who you'll hear from this evening, is when we lock in October, we know what our title funding is at that point in time. But there is carryover that comes from previous years' unspent funds. We don't really know that value until after the budget is adopted. So therefore, that revenue line related to federal funding, which if you look down would be revenue federal sources, essentially a source code beginning with 7, changes. Now you're going to say, well, it hasn't changed, probably because we haven't made that change within our accounting software. So there are changes that occur, typically twice, but at least once a year. We bring forth to the committee and to the board changes within the budget. It's a summary. Because it's so dynamic, we would probably be here every board meeting asking you to approve budget changes. So we really roll that up. That's our practice. But that's just kind of a short primer, if you will, on how things change from an original budget to a revised budget. Just taking a look, since we have it pulled up, looking at this revenue snippet, and again, you have the full report within your packet, is pretty much we continue to be on target as expected, but you'll always notice, particularly this time of the year, right, our revenues are not outpacing our expenses. It's really the reverse. Expenses are far outpacing our revenues, and you've heard me in the past say at times we have low cash positions within the district. November is a perfect example. January is the perfect example as well. And just recently we received from the city of Janesville our first tax settlement. So we're going to start to be a little more rich in cash. We just received that in February. Right, so that's a little bit about the financials. So I kind of covered two aspects there, the difference between an original budget, a revised budget, as well as just a quick overview included in your packet in terms of our revenue and expenses fiscal year to date. Any questions from the committee?
Yes.
Commissioner Ardrey.
Thank you.
Shocker.
As you were talking carryover, and if I just go to the bottom line number and it's like, well, this money tree that we must have because our expenses are far outpacing our revenue year to date, how do we do that?
Excellent question. So you may recall, and you'll see this at the March board meeting when you'll be presented with the district's 24-25 audit, is as of June 30th, we will have a fund balance. Our fund balance is approximately $26 million. Now, I'm not going to get into, if you will, the details of the fund balance because there's, let's say, assigned fund balance and unassigned fund balance. Our unassigned fund balance is approximately $25 million. We need that cash, if you will, to draw down to maintain our obligations, our expenses throughout the year. So come November, we probably have less than $1 million in the bank, and then we tap our line of credit in November by about $4 to $5 million. So that fund balance is not a savings account per se to where it is just sitting there untapped. We tap that throughout the fiscal year in order, again, to meet our obligations. So one thing, sorry, real quick, you got me going. So I appreciate that, right, is even when we look at our tax receipts, we will have north of $10 million as a receivable from the city of Janesville and other municipalities after the close of our fiscal year, right? So that's where cash flow kind of comes into the district's operating and is rather unique, but it's unique to Wisconsin school districts, not just the school district of Janesville.
Thank you for that explanation, Mr. Johnson. Oh, okay. All right. No further questions. I will make a motion to accept the financial summaries as presented.
Second.
And with a motion and a second, it passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you. Were you clicking on the rehearsed timings just for me? I'm just that one.
Yes.
Well, that wouldn't help.
What's next on the agenda?
It's,
Liz?
yeah, no,
Oh, Wisconsin Policy Forum. Okay.
Yep, information on the Wisconsin Policy Forum data tool.
Absolutely. So I asked Allison DeGraff, our Director of Learning and Innovation, to be part of this meeting, if you will. Allison may provide a comment or two. I really appreciate and want to thank Superintendent Holtzman for allowing Allison and I to pursue this opportunity that we're sharing with you. You will receive a more in-depth presentation at next Tuesday's full board meeting. So representatives from the Wisconsin Policy Forum will be here to present their data tool. But this is a preview, and I made mention of this to the committee the last time we met. So we're just going to go through a few quick slides here. I always want to highlight our students' learning and our teachers' teaching. This is what we do as a district, and again, this is what our finances, our budget supports as instruction in the classroom. So just a couple things, right, when we talk about data, and this is really me and Allison setting it up, right, I'll focus on the first quote there, right, if we have data, let's look at the data. If all we have are opinions, let's go with mine. That is not my position. That is not Allison's position. That is not Superintendent Holtzman's position, right? So probably more of data as a chemistry set. If you combine it in the right way, filter it, and warm it in the right way, you hopefully get some insights. You've often heard me during my tenure here talk about the difference between transparency and clarity. I didn't actually print it, but I ran a print job for our budget, and it is just over 600 pages long. If we wanted to be transparent, we would provide you all with a copy of the budget. Say, there you go, there's transparency. But what we would be lacking is the clarity, within that budget. Clarity, as this says, ensures that information is understandable, relevant, and actionable. And this is too why I appreciate the committee and Commissioner Ardrey's leadership in allowing us at times to take a deep dive into the district's financial or operational data. So I'm going to ask Allison to maybe step up for a little bit to talk about a transparent resource at the DPI, because the DPI has a plethora of information available to the consumer. It's probably really geared a little bit more, though, towards the practitioner. You want me?
No.
Oh, okay.
So yes, with Wisconsin Policy Forum, really part of the idea around it, as Dan has shared, is that transparency of your data within the district. We know that Wise-Public is something that everyone has access to that includes some of the same information, even related to finances, enrollment, graduation rates, attendance, and also our statewide data on ACT and forward exam as well. So all of that can be found in Wise-Public. But as Dan mentioned too as well, I think with one of the reasons that we really wanted to engage with Wisconsin Policy Forum is because it's much more consumer friendly. Wise Public is still a little bit more for the practitioner. And when I go even into Wise Public, there's multiple drop-down menus, and if I want to go in and look at ACT or forward data as well, I have the list of over 400 districts in there that I can compare to. But then I have to toggle back and forth between all of those districts to find the information that I'm looking for. So what Wisconsin Policy Forum does for us is, and Dan will talk a little bit about that, is we really narrowed down our focus to who are the 8 comparable districts that are most like us related to enrollment and demographics around the state as well. So we're making a more accurate comparison. So I'm not having to look at over 400 districts and try to determine which ones are similar to our Janesville school district or just randomly selecting districts as well. Wisconsin Policy Forum also allows you to look at any district, but it starts with narrowing down the 8 districts that are most like the school district of Janesville, so you have something more comparable. So it's, it's very easy to navigate, so you're not dealing with all of the challenges of the navigation of a big site like Wise Public, and it has comparable information in more of a user-friendly format. So that is really kind of what helped us make the decision around, why we chose Wisconsin Policy Forum more as a tool to use. That would be if we go to our district website, we can access Wisconsin Policy Forum tool. So people don't have to go to and search on the Department of Public Instruction and look for Wise Public or search demographic information to try to figure out what are comparable districts. So it's one of the reasons that we really decided this would be a tool we could put on our website, the community could easily access and find the data that they're looking for as well. And again, one of the reasons when we talk about Wisconsin Policy Forum as well, and Dan will talk a little bit more about this, but it's a nonpartisan research organization that really wants to help local governments and school districts understand their data and be able to share that data in a transparent way. And it's really about, so local government and school districts can look at what are some really of the critical issues and policies that we're facing, and then how can we have access to that data that will help us make informed decisions. And as well as that data, when you're talking at the school district level or local government level and community members that look at that data, it also just helps you have a more productive discussion around those policies as well, because you are informed by the data that's embedded within the Wisconsin Policy Forum tool.
Allison clicked, if you go to our district's main page and click on About Us, I didn't capture everything, but if you were to scroll down, I believe it's on item 10 or 11, you would see access to the Wisconsin Policy Forum. In chatting with our Public Information Officer, Patty, we also will probably embed it under the L&I page as well as the business page, so we have at least 3 or more, if you will, pointers to the Wisconsin Policy Forum data. So we're very excited about that. Really appreciate Patty's collaboration. This is what it looks like if you've not gone into, so a little bit simpler, right? So you can see everything from student demographics, teacher demographics, district finances, student participation, forward exam, and the ACT score. So a number of particular areas. I'm highlighting one area relative to student demographics, and you'll see this is the district's trend line over time relative to economic status. So Commissioner Murray was recognized at the last board meeting for nearly 21 years of service to the district and the community. He began in the 2005 school year. That has been the difference over his tenure relative to the district's economic status of its students. It's nearly doubled. Right, so we are approximately 54% of students who qualify for free or reduced lunch as compared to 21 years ago when it was half of that. So we're going to talk a little bit about comparative data. And again, the Wisconsin Policy Forum, when they present next week, will probably do a much better presentation than certainly I am giving you. Allison always hits it out of the park. But here's a demographic comparison district by district relative to economic status. We're going to talk about those districts in just a moment, but there are 7 other districts that we're comparing ourselves to. We are the school district of Janesville in orange. So we use the Barrett Analytics tool, as Allison referenced, to really zero in on enrollment. So it's kind of a sliding scale, so we can see what districts are populating in the upper left-hand margin, as well as free or reduced. Oftentimes we're referenced as we're the 10th largest district in the state of Wisconsin. Absolutely, but there's a distinct difference within that group between Janesville, which is number 10, and Milwaukee, which is number 1, or Green Bay, or Racine, or Kenosha, or Appleton. Right, so we're on the lower end of that spectrum. So who is truly like us? So we use this tool to identify those districts that you see: Fond du Lac, Janesville ourselves, Oshkosh, Sheboygan, Stevens Point, Sun Prairie, Wausau, and West Allis. And transparency, Sun Prairie, from an enrollment perspective, is very good to us in terms of a comparability. They are a little bit further reduced. They're in the 30% margin when it comes to free or reduced lunch participation. We included them for 2 primary reasons. One, they're in the Big 8 Capital Conference, right? And secondly, they have 2 high schools, and we have 2 high schools. So if you looked at Madison, which I forgot earlier, right, is one of the 10 largest districts, like they have a number of high schools, right? Their population enrollment is huge, right? Verona's in the Big 8 as well, but Verona has 1 high school, and their demographics and student enrollment are very different than ours. So who are our comparables? So you've often heard me say comparables really vary. So the Janesville Gazette, right, Gazette Extra will report on Rock County when they're doing an article related to education. Sure, those may be comparables to the readership. If we're talking about salary and benefits for certified staff, we may be looking at Rock County Greater as well. If we're talking about perhaps other items, such as the data that we're sharing, who are our comparable districts? Not here in Rock County. So we have Parkview, which has under 1,000 students, as well as Clinton. They're on the lower end. The school district of Janesville is over 9,000 students. Right, so are we really comparable? Perhaps only in the fact that we share the same county. Allison touched on this, and I think it still is worth noting, right? Why the Wisconsin Policy Forum? ClearGov is another avenue, but not really a tool that would give us the format that we were looking for, which is really allowing us to tell our story, not only from a student achievement standpoint, but also fiscally and operationally. So the WPF, the Wisconsin Policy Forum, uses this data tool, or I should say the school district in Sheboygan uses it, as well as Beloit. We're the 3rd school district to use it. Why we like it here in Janesville: it's independent, it's nonpartisan, it's research-oriented, and it's data-driven. Those are 4 key aspects as to why the Wisconsin Policy Forum, outside of the visualization of their data tool, was selected. I'm sure you all recall, for 15 years I served as a board member in another district, and I can't know everything, and you can't know everything as a board member. Sometimes it's nice to be able to direct people towards a resource. And as Allison noted, the DPI can be overwhelming. There are great people at the Department of Public Instruction. There's a bazillion data points in the public department, right? So how do we really narrow it down? And this is where that tool comes into play. And again, as I referenced, the Board of Education will have an overview. 2 representatives from the Wisconsin Policy Forum will present and take probably a little bit deeper dive into the data tool. It is public. It is available. It's on our website, and I know the Wisconsin Policy Forum on their social media has also pushed out the fact that our site is live. That concludes the presentation. Alice and I are happy to entertain any questions the committee may have.
Thank you. It is good to see such an easy to navigate tool to get pretty quick information, having dealt with the other Dash Public. That was, yeah, it's not for normal people. Any questions you may have or comments?
No, I just want to say that I think that website is great to compare districts. But I do think it's unfair that we're comparing ourselves to districts that have, obviously, the income is different in those districts. the cost of living, so. Yeah.
Okay. Next on the agenda, update on district capital maintenance and 2024 referendum projects. Mr. Leader.
Good afternoon, all. Basically, I'd like to give you an update on 7 different projects, updates that kind of span across the entire district. So I'd like to start out with Franklin Middle School recommissioning. So we went out back in October to verify all of the new HVAC equipment that was implemented into Franklin Middle School. The main objective behind that is to make sure that everything that was designed to spec, and that the equipment that was installed by the mechanical contractor met the design intent. So again, we started that back in October. We were hoping to have the results this month. However, with the inclement temperatures we experienced a few weeks ago, that kind of slowed that process down. Because when you're trying to balance a building or do any testing like that, you certainly don't want to have all your outside air vents wide open, introducing sub-zero weather to the building. So just helps with not freezing things up. So to update all of that, we're still in process, and we are anticipating the results by the 1st of April. So they're back in the saddle doing their thing, so we'll have results on April 1st. Any questions on the recommissioning? All right, I'll move on to building automation system. A couple of meetings ago, I stated that we should be 100% complete by the middle of this month. We are at certain buildings. Jefferson, Kennedy, Harrison, Roosevelt, Lincoln, Monroe, Madison are all 100% complete. We ran into a few issues at our bigger schools, such as Craig and Parker. We had a lot of controllers that were existing, right? So we're introducing the new system, and we're having a few issues with them marrying, if you will. So we're working through those. We are making progress. So I'm going to have to bump that completion date up to mid-March. So.
So just as a next committee meeting next month, I think I said if we could just grab some snapshots, just as a picture to give us a feel.
Absolutely.
Completion.
Yeah, I'd love to show you the new graphics,
Yeah.
you know, the list views, alarm list views, and all that kind of thing, so.
After the last board meeting, a few board members were even more interested, and I'm like, we don't have anything.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, as far as the training goes, at the elementary level, we've had a few of our elementary head custodians trained. And after the total completion of the install of the BAS, then we will go to in-depth training with our secondary maintenance people. That in-depth training, it isn't a look and see, right, like the head custodians at the elementary are going to have. Their training will consist of making changes. They'll be able to enable and shut down equipment if need be. They'll be able to adjust air intakes into the building, exhaust, the whole 9 yards. So if we do have an issue during the day, instead of picking up the phone and calling somebody, which is probably a $300 bill, we'll have that training for these folks that they'll be able to go in and make changes. So that, again, that will be at the secondary level. So your secondary folks at the middle schools and the high schools. Head custodians at the elementaries is look and see. If that teacher says, hey, room 105 is really cold, he can go ahead, pop his screen up, focus on that room, and it'll tell exactly what that temperature is inside the classroom. So at least that custodian can give the answer to that teacher saying, well, the set point's at 70 and you're at 70, right? Or vice versa, say, yes, we have, you know, you are right, it's chilly, we've acknowledged an issue, we're working on it. So I like that enhanced communication will help as well. Moving on to Kennedy Elementary roof replacement. This is a complete building roof replacement. The project went out to bid, it was awarded, and work will begin summer of 2026. What's nice, this will be a totally adhered system. I'm a big fan of totally adhered. We get away from a ballasted type roof system. If anybody doesn't know what a ballasted roof system is, it's a roof system that is weighted down by either washed river rock or concrete pavers. So if you think about, hey, I've got a leak in classroom 210, which could start at any part of the location of that roof, now you're shoveling rocks off the roof trying to find a leak, right? Counterintuitive. I mean, now now you're looking at possibly puncturing that EPDM with the shovel. So that's why we always try to go to a total adhered rather than a ballasted. We had an issue with Craig High School's pool. It was shut down for quite some time. We had a lot of the tile that started actually on the diving block area, bullnose that was coming apart. We had some sharp edges. Upon further investigation, we noticed that we had large sections on the interior of the pool that were failing. So we drained the pool, made all the needed repairs we did. After the inner part of the pool was reconditioned, I asked that we also do a more in-depth look at the pool deck itself. So we did a little bit more work up topside to ensure that all the grout was in place and we wouldn't have any more tile loss. So that is completed. Craig High School chiller update. As y'all probably remember, we had quite a mishap with that chiller last summer. With Dan's great knowledge and help with this, we were able to immediately go out, start to design a new system. We're also able to go out to bid for the new chiller system, and all of that has been completed. Right now, we're in the demolition stage, so we've already removed the chiller, the old chiller that's inside the building, and our new chiller will be delivered Thursday and spotted on property. So we're looking at a completion date of before April 15th for the new chiller system. I don't want to get caught into May and all that, so, you know, sometimes May can be pretty hot, so. Any questions on the chiller for Craig High School? Okay, Roosevelt Elementary. So we always talked about that bump out, if you will, right? I named it, or I thought the proper terminology for that was a colonnade. It's not a colonnade. It's a portico, right? So Dan helped me with that, and who else? Julie, I believe, right?
Google,
So,
that's what helped
Google,
me.
right?
Google
Yeah,
helped me.
exactly. So colonnade is more of a rectangle square, if you will, that protrudes outside of a building. The portico is more of a rounded edge. So, hey, still learning, right? So update on that, the repair will begin over spring break, so this includes all new steps. If you folks have looked at that area of the building, the steps are a rounded feature. I believe there's 4 steps to it, and that sits on a pylon. So this is no easy task. The entire portico is gonna have to be, we're gonna have to use a steel I-beam, and we're gonna have to have some countermeasures to keep that weight, because the columns have to be removed and replaced as well. So it's a rather large project. This is not gonna be done over spring break. This is gonna be a process. I don't know what the weather's gonna be for pouring concrete. So this might be could be a 6-week venture, so.
Mr. Leader,
Yes,
can you share the approximate, unless you know exactly when Roosevelt was constructed,
19, it's either 28 or 32, one or the other.
So it's nearly a 100-year-old building.
Right,
So the portico is nearly 100 years old.
correct. Yep. So with the steps, right, now we'll be back to code, today's code, right? That was yesteryear's code, and it's horrible. It's hard to navigate, so. Any questions on Roosevelt? Portico? All right. Moving on to Craig Parker Ball Diamond updates. We had a Phase 2 kickoff meeting, which was held today with POB, Points of Beginning, for the Phase 2 work at our high schools for 3 additional baseball, softball, field work, rework design. That will go out to bid next month. So we're probably looking at work, Dan, I would think late summer into fall,
Yes.
correct? So, making progress. I would like to add, since we're talking about baseball diamonds, softball diamonds, we have had a new hire in our maintenance department. His name is Sayao Hernandez. Sayao is a baseball coach. He's been a softball coach. So Sayao knows what a diamond should look like, right? So Sayao's on our maintenance department. He was a ball diamond groomer, maintainer in Beloit. And we are happy to have him on our team. He has a lot of knowledge. So I think that's going to be a big asset for this year and our future. So,
Mr. Leader,
yes.
did he not recently attend some professional development?
He did. Matter of fact, he did a 2-day in, it was in Wisconsin. Help me out here.
I think you're thinking of the Wisconsin Sports Turf Management Association?
Yes, thank you. Yes. So yeah, he enjoyed it, learned it. He said, I learned a couple of new things, so I'm really excited to have him on board. Did you want to talk about? Okay. All right, as far as 2024 referendum bid package 1B, we were due February 10th, 2026. Final bid numbers are being solidified by J.P. Cullen. It appears that the bid packages 1A and 1B are on budget, and final bid values and budget will be shared at a later date. It was great to see Mr. Ardrey there for the last tally, if you will. So, a lot to come.
Just as a reminder, what's in part of bid package 1A and 1B?
So 1B, it's related to special education at Craig and Parker, as well as ADA restroom improvements, special education, windows, lighting, and mechanical systems at Lincoln Elementary.
And combined, they're on budget.
Yes, combined.
All right, we look forward to hearing the final report from Colin
right.
on those.
All right,
All righty, thank you.
thank you.
All right, next. Always look forward to this one. Update on student nutrition program. Liz Lito.
Thank you. As we begin tonight, I want to quickly acknowledge and pay a tribute to Jim Deegan. Commissioner Audrey, you may have worked with Jim very closely. Jim did pass away on January 7th. Jim was a mentor to many people, including myself. He believed that the more people that understood student nutrition, the stronger our department across the nation would be. To Jim, the school cafeteria wasn't just a room. It was a place for children to learn about nutrition, socialize, and be themselves. Jim brought a rare mix of restaurant owner business smarts and a servant's heart to Janesville. He was a huge supporter of our industry partners, believing those relationships were vital to our future success. His expertise led him to be president of the School Nutrition Association of Wisconsin, and while he received many awards, his real pride was here in his team that he led in Janesville. He treated our department's budget with the same care he treated his own families, with honesty, discipline, and a focus on the students. While we will miss Jim dearly, his legacy will live on in every student who goes to class ready to learn because of the programs he championed here in Janesville. So as we begin our report tonight, we're going to cover the operational fiscal performance of the program from 24-25 school year. And I want you guys to know our priorities remain the same: to provide a high-quality USDA compliant meal while maintaining fully self-sustaining fiscal model. Last year, our department managed to serve over 1.5 million meals. This included over 611,000 breakfasts and nearly 890,000 lunches. Additionally, we served over 66,000 meals in the summer of 2025. The tray you see on there is a picture of an elementary breakfast that we offer to our students. Elementary meals, breakfast is served in the classroom to all of our students. We receive an average federal reimbursement of $2.29 for that breakfast. That food on that tray costs us about $1.50, and the labor to prepare, clean up, serve the meal is about 62 cents. So this leaves an unspent portion of 17 cents per meal. And that 17 cents is critical for our program's reinvestment, allowing us to maintain equipment, replace equipment as needed, buy supplies, without having to request funds from the district's general fund. All right, on the next slide, you're going to see an elementary lunch. That's actually lunch from Monday this week. So on that meal, we receive an average reimbursement from the federal government of $3.54. That cost us about $1.93 on food, and $1.52 on labor required, again, to prepare, serve, and clean up. This leaves a total of 9 cents per lunch, and again, we'll use that to reinvest in our department. Looking back at the 24-25 fiscal year, our revenue was approximately $6.7 million, and we had $6.6 in expenses, meaning we ended the year with a healthy, balanced budget. This slide will show our USDA requirements. It shows our current requirements, like the 550 to 650 calories for an elementary lunch, and that's on a weekly average, all of those requirements. So all of our school kitchens are fully hitting that mark, and they're meeting those requirements. We meet all the requirements for calories, fat, sodium, whole grains. And as you'll see at the bottom, there's a section called Road Ahead. The USDA has outlined new goals for 2027, and for the first time in history, we'll be monitoring added sugar, and we'll again be reducing sodium. We've had several phases of sodium reduction, but this is the first for added sugar. And we're not waiting for those deadlines to come. We're already behind the scenes taste testing with our students, talking with vendors, tweaking recipes, and making sure that the transition is smooth for our students, and hopefully they won't even notice the change as we continue. As we look at overall participation at different building levels, the district should be really incredibly proud of that breakfast participation of 68.25% at the elementary level. That is nearly double what the state of Wisconsin's participation is for breakfast. And a big part for that participation is we serve it in the classroom. We offer it to all students, and breakfast throughout the district is universally free for all of our students enrolled. So it really proves that we make that healthy meal a part of our morning routine, and students are able to show up to class ready to learn. As students get a little older, the habits do shift, and while middle school lunch remains high with participation nearly 70%, we do see a dip in breakfast. At Craig and Parker, our participation at lunch is at 46%, and that is a reality of open campus, where we compete with local restaurants and different convenience stores. And they don't have to meet the USDA requirements that we do. So as you may already know, and I mentioned that breakfast is free to every student in the district, we do also still recognize that we have room to grow, and we're focused on finding creative ways to meet the needs of our older students and meet them where they're at. Hello, welcome. S- So some other things that we do, other programs we provide to our students, we have a fresh fruit vegetable grant. That grant's available for all of our CEP schools at our elementary level, which is community eligible schools. So those schools, all students also not only eat breakfast for free, their lunch is available for free as well. And that's based on an identified student percentage, and that is based on if students qualify for federal programs like SNAP. We have after-school snack at our area eligible schools. So the only two schools that don't qualify for that after-school snack program are Harrison and Kennedy. And then Rock River Charter and Rock University High School don't qualify as well. And a student has to be enrolled in some type of supervised activity, whether that's academic or sports related. They're all eligible to have that after-school snack. And a lot of times that might be, I'm trying to think of something. It might be like a cereal bar and a apple slice that we provide. So it's just a little something to tide them over till they get home for dinner. And then we also have our really great summer feeding program. So all those programs, again, are at no cost to students and their families. So the last slide I want to show you, why we acknowledge that we do have challenges coming up in student nutrition. We do have so much to celebrate. These photos show a Super Bowl Hail Mary lunch hot dog bar, and these photos are from Jackson Elementary, but we did this across the district. Students could choose from a rookie dog, a cheesehead, or a pickle sticks hot dog. The excitement can be seen on their smiling faces, and students call this the best lunch ever. Days like this remind us that no matter what our role is in the district, we play a huge part in serving the most important customers in the world, our students. I didn't put up a question mark slide like Mr. McCray, because I wanted to leave you with the photos of those kids, because it's way more important than a question mark. But are there any questions tonight?
Much better than a question mark. Yeah. Makes us smile. Leave us with a smile. Any questions, comments?
Could you reiterate again why those 4 schools do not get that after-school snack?
So after-school snack is based primarily on community eligible to keep it free. So with Craig and Parker, they're not community eligible schools, but they have students from, say, Roosevelt, Jackson that are community eligible that feed into them. So that makes them eligible. Harrison and Kennedy are not community eligible, so they don't qualify for the area eligible after-school snack.
Could you elaborate a little bit more why
Why Kennedy and Harrison don't qualify? Their free and reduced percentage is not high enough.
Okay. That makes sense.
That's better. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, oh, you're very welcome. It's a great question.
No other questions. I just want to say, Liz, thank you for continuing the legacy of Mr. Deegan and doing it well. So, thank you.
We learned from the best here in
Yes, we
Janesville.
did.
We
Yes.
absolutely did. Thank you.
Alrighty. Okay, next, information on federal funding supporting student instruction and services.
Good evening. We saved the best for last, federal funding. Dan said I could have as much time as I needed, so we'll try to be out of here before 8. We're gonna start out with a little board participation. First question, and only question. What percentage of our total operating budget is comprised of federal grant funds? No cheating. It's on the next page. Not quite 4%, yep. It is 3.84%, or a total of $6,156,326. And then I put up last year's for you as well, so you can see that. Right around that 4% mark, 3.9, or just about $38,000 difference from this year. So tonight, we're going to just quickly review our federal grants that we received, show you the allocation that we receive, and then a little bit of the budget that we use it for. We're not going to go into great detail because we would be here until 8 o'clock. And then we're gonna discuss the reconciliation and audit process, and then look at, the future. So we will jump right in. We kind of group our grants, federal grants, into 3 different categories. One is ESSA or ESCA, and then the other 2 are IDA and other because that was the easiest thing to combine them with. ESEA or ESSA often refer to our title grants, so when you hear those 2, they're often used interchangeably, referred to our title. ESEA was set into law in 1965, and then in 2015, President Obama amended the law and changed it to ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act. And the biggest difference, the amendment that was here, just provided greater flexibility to states in setting, measuring, and improving student proficiency goals. So the one thing to remember is when you hear ESEA or ESSA, often typically referring to our title grants. So we have 7 different grants under these acts. The first one is Title I-A. We received just about $2.4 million in Title I. And the large budget items in this grant is our reading and math teachers at our 10 eligible title schools and the YSC, and then classroom aides. All of these, or not all of these, but most of these grants are supplemental, so above and beyond what our budget currently provides. They're entitlement, so it's not something that we have to compete to get. We receive it based on our low income data. Our next grant is Title I-D. This is reserved for the YSC or the Rock County Jail. It's our delinquent grant. Our allocation is $22,000, and it's mainly used for professional development for our staff that work with those students, as well as the transition coordinator who works with the students at the YSC. Title II-A is our grant for professional development, used for professional development of staff, and it is a total allocation of about $350,000. Title III is just under $79,000. It's our EL grant. The major budget items in this grant is our EL teacher leaders that provide coaching and guidance opportunities for other EL staff, professional development opportunities for EL staff, and then a software as well for the EL staff. And then our last 3 in the ESEA are Title IV. This one's just under or just over $162,000. And there's 3 core areas that this grant encompasses: well-rounded education, safe and healthy students, and effective use of technology. So with these 3 in mind, that's how we build our budget. And most of our budget is used on salaries for our youth advocates, our tech training stipend, innovative learning specialists, and school safety consultation. And then our last 2 in the ESCA are the homeless, the EHCY for our McKinney-Vento students. In this budget, we support our family support advocate, our wraparound care, which is clothing and food and hygiene supplies, school supplies for McKinney-Vento students, PD for staff, McKinney-Vento transportation to and from school, as well as a family resource fair that we will have in May to bring families together. And this allocation is $55,000. And our last one in the ESEA is the ATSI grant. This is a new one this year, and it is for Franklin. And it's going to be used for AVID training and an innovative school summit, so professional development for Franklin staff. Then we'll show, yes.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Got past that. Every one of these, or most of them, say requires private school equitable services.
Correct, yep. Probably should have highlighted that too. So with that allocation that I've been showing here on this summary screen, Most of them require providing support for students that are within our district or reside within our district, but may attend a private school instead. So that's required through the law to provide additional part of the allocation to that. So this time of year, we're working on our spreadsheets determining what percentage of low-income students might attend a private school, and then what percentage of that total allocation then goes to private.
So they are given based on a percentage of who is, the private schools given that much money? Of that total?
It's a very small percentage of sometimes 1 to 3 students that attend a private school that are eligible to receive these funds, yes.
Okay, fine, I just didn't do it. The other thing was for homeless children, youth, does that mean whether they're accompanied or unaccompanied by an adult? In other words, Project 1649 or the others, are they entitled to any of that money?
Yes, so 1649 is part of this grant as well. They sometimes spend on students that are from within our district, part of these funds.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Darmerhausen, great questions. I was going to bring up that point that you did in terms of private school equity. I think it's important to note that Zeke Sterwald serves really as the fiscal manager of these grants, and works closely with our program managers. So Julie DeCook is an example who works in curriculum and instruction, or learning and innovation, I should say. We'll be working with our private schools as well as Zeke. So it's almost that three-legged stool in order to provide services to our private school partners. If we're looking at our homeless, Zeke will work closely with Carrie Kalinsky, who is our homeless liaison, in terms of ensuring services are provided to those students. Keep in mind, those students may actually reside in another district and attend our schools because they're inadvertently homeless. Similarly, we're responsible if we have a resident student attending another district for services provided to that student as well. So Carrie Kalinsky does an exceptional job. I believe really appreciates the support that Zeke provides in order to essentially care for our students who need and require those services.
Thanks. So we'll continue on with, if I click the right side, the IDA bucket. The IDA is our special education group, and there's 2 main grants in IDA. It's our flow-through as well as our preschool. Flow-through is broken into 2. We have the flow-through and as well as the CCEIS. That's the totaling the 2.5, just over 2.5 million. CCEIS is our comprehensive coordination of early intervening services. It's funds set aside for disproportionality. In this budget, we have our youth advocate salary, program coordinator salaries, AVID conference again, and then some software to minimize special education referrals. And then the flow-through general budget is mainly teachers, special education teachers, PD and travel, and then some contracted services and some classroom supplies. Again, these are supplemental, so above and beyond what our other special education funds are used for. And then we have our preschool, our allocation of $104,000, and this is for early childhood classroom supplies, 2 early childhood teachers, and then some audiologist contracted services. Here's a quick summary of their 2 allocations in IDA. And then we will end with our other grants. We have 2, Carl Perkins, that's $123,000. That's for the tech ed departments and programming, used for PD, student transportation to field trips, and other tech ed supplies. And then we have our fresh fruits and vegetable program, coming up to $196,000. And that's for the participating, yes.
It says grant to provide access to and information about fresh fruit, so they do actually get fresh fruit.
Yes, yeah, so most of it most of it is for fresh fruits and vegetables, for lunch and breakfast, but also it provides information as well.
Outstanding.
And then our quick summary of our other grants. And then I want to kind of transition to the audit process. I just wanted to show this. We're not going to dive deep into this. There will be an overview of the full audit in March, I believe. But this is just a snippet of the federal side. This is called the CFA, Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards, showing the balancing of the expenditures with the revenues and any accrued interest and receivables. And then the single audit, this is part of the overall audit, the fiscal audit. It's for any organization that spends more than $750,000 in a fiscal year of federal funds. That doesn't mean that the grant has to be more than 750, just in total. So they can pick any grant. As you can see on the right side of your screen, this year's audit was focused in on IDEA, the flow-through and preschool, Title 1A and Title 1D. They just take a deeper dive, make sure that we're complying with the federal guidelines. It looks at specifically like timesheets, staff licenses, invoices, making sure that what we're spending our grant funds on is allowable. And then I just wanted to end quickly with looking forward. On February 3rd, President Trump signed into law the 2026 federal budget. I wanted to provide you a couple highlights from that budget. IDA funding, the special education funding, was increased by 20 million. So increasing it to approximately 14.23 billion. And then the ESSA funding, the title funding, was increased to 20 million as well, and approximately 18.4 billion in total. And then all the rest of the K-12 programs remain the same. So if you remember last year at this time, there was a lot of concern about whether we were going to be receiving these federal funds this year. Well, we just went through, we have received them, but there was also questions on whether we were going to receive them in the future. So as of next year, we're going to receive them. There's increases to these two, but what does that mean for us in Janesville? Right now, the federal government is working on allocating to the states, and then the states will allocate to the different districts. Just because, the most important thing to remember is just because there's increases to the federal budget does not mean that we're going to see increases to our grants next year. So we know that we're going to receive something, but at this time we don't know what. So I'll be going to the federal funding conference here actually next week, and so hopefully we'll have some more insight in what our allocations might look like. But this concludes my presentation. I will make sure I have a picture of student next time instead of question mark. But any questions?
Any questions for Zeke? Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
That looks like you get out easy. No questions. Okay.
Commissioner Ardrey, just did some quick math. The 20 million increase to 14 billion is a 0.14% increase.
I didn't even talk about that. Almost pointless to talk about.
Commissioner Ardrey?
Yes.
If I may, just a quick follow-up to Zeke's presentation. We met as a group and asked that he really focus a little bit on the audit process. A lot of times as commissioners, as citizens here in the state, you'll hear a lot about school districts and perhaps not necessarily correctly accounting for the funds that they have. Really, the intent here is to not only share with you the federal funding we receive, but further emphasize prior to the budget report next month, the fact that we do go through an extensive audit process. And we're very fortunate that we come up on the right side of our audit. And it's due in part to the work such as Tammy Carlson, Zeke Sterwald, and Matt Sylvester Knudsen, as well as a number of other folks from payroll to human resources to even L&I and our program coordinators help support.
Good point. Okay, thank you. So future committee items from my committee members, anything you'd like to see us cover? Get an idea of what's coming up, the audit report. We'll continue to talk referendum and capital maintenance updates. Debt service related, yeah, we'll talk about that. I mean, so we'll do our normal, what we've done. I don't know if there's anything in particular you guys would want to have us add to the agenda?
No, not right now.
Okay, okay. All right, our next meeting. Does Monday, March 16th work for anybody?
Monday?
Yes, Monday. I'm asking.
What time?
5 o'clock. All meetings going forward will be 5 o'clock.
Thank you.
Yes.
I apologize.
No worries.
I had it as 6 for some reason on my calendar.
If you'd have been 7 minutes late, you'd have been perfect time. You wouldn't have had to worry about it.
We won't even touch that.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, that works for me.
You have to dress in green or
I was just sitting at home.
Well, I can do that.
on March 16th?
That could be a day early. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. So will we be able to potentially be here? Do we want to be here?
I'm not seeing any conflicts at this time,
Okay.
so I will reserve the board rooms.
Okay, all righty, 5 o'clock, March 16th. Thank you all, we are adjourned.
I did the math of if we received the same increase from the federal government, we'd see $8,618 more from the feds.
I thought we went down. I was
8,000?
reading that like,
So you said 8,000?